Hello, welcome to 39A Online. I'm Rick Sims and I will be your instructor for the quarter. This is the first video, it's an introduction to the course. I'm just going to go over a couple basic things like the syllabus, some of the course objectives, and course overview. Also want to watch a short little video to kind of introduce a major concept of the course. Before I do that, I'll just introduce myself. I'm Rick Sims. I am a 39A instructor. I am the assistant course director for 39A as well. And I've been teaching at UCI for 6 years now. I have my undergraduate degree from UCI. It is a BA in English. And then I also have my Master of Fine Art in Poetry from UCI. I graduated in 2009 with that. So I've been at UCI for a long time. And I'm in my office here at home. You'll see bookshelves behind me. You may or may not see my cats jump in and out of these videos. If that happens, we'll just go with it. But that's my basic intro. We'll get to know each other better over the next couple of weeks with video conferencing and group discussions. And we'll see what kind of community we can build out of that. So today, I just want to introduce a few things. Let me get right into the syllabus. I'm going to read a couple parts. I know you've read it already, but I want to go over a couple important aspects before we jump in any further. So, I'm just going to pull up the syllabus here and give a view that we can all see clearly. And I just want to work through the title really quickly and then the introduction paragraph as well. And then we'll kind of come back to the syllabus a little bit later. But as I said, this is 39A Online. It's an introduction to writing and rhetoric is the official title of the course. I've put a couple additional descriptions in parentheses there, which we'll come back to. My email is listed here in the syllabus. You can always email if you have any questions. But let's get to the introduction first and foremost. It says, welcome to Writing 39A. This course is the first in a series of 3 classes designed to prepare you for your career as a college writer. It is fast-paced and demanding, but when you're done, you'll possess the awareness, adaptability, and control you need to understand many writing situations, as well as skills you'll need to produce interesting, complex, and clear essays. Simply put, you will learn a lot about being a writer, a reader, and a thinker in this course, but it will take a lot of hard work to get you there. This course requires your sustained attention and care throughout the 10 weeks. And as I said in the welcome email, online courses for writing take an additional level of determination and commitment and time management on your part to make sure that you don't fall behind. So we'll continue to discuss that later. I want to dig into a couple of things here. I want to dig into what I put in the parentheses here. Style and argument as a way to just understand the kind of larger goals of this course. So the course is more or less going to be divided into 2 categories. One category is learning and developing your writing style, which is going to be similar to your writing voice and also similar to tone. And we'll read about that in the Anteater Guide to Writing and Rhetoric next week, I believe. Rhetoric, on the other hand, and what I've put in the parentheses is argument. We're going to learn how to make better persuasive arguments, how to control those arguments, how to develop those arguments, when to make those arguments and to whom to make those arguments. And that's going to be a secondary goal of this course. Now, at the beginning of the course, we will kind of divide the skills or our learning into these 2 categories. The first 2.5 weeks, we're mainly just going to be focusing on style. We won't be doing much more than that. But then we'll start blending in week 3 into argument and bringing style along with us. We won't just transfer out of that completely. It will be then used, our new writing style, our new writing voice, as we build bigger arguments. Let me get off this and get back to video real quickly. Sorry about that delay. A couple other words I wanted to point out before we get into a short little video clip and a quote that I want to look at together as a good way to introduce the course is a couple words that stuck out to me in that syllabus, and they are as follows: aware, adaptable, and in control. Now, we said in the syllabus awareness, adaptability, and control. These are a couple of the key concepts of the course that to become a really good writer, to improve in your writing skill, you need to be able to understand what these three things mean. We're going to talk as we get into the rhetoric part or the argument part about writing to audiences, writing to different purposes, writing in different situations, that every time we write, we're writing into a different situation. And that takes adaptability, that takes awareness, and then ultimately out of that, you're able to control your argument in the way you please. So that's something that we'll return to over and over again in this course. And I just wanted to highlight those three words to you today, and then also highlight that kind of distinction of the course title. But to make a little bit more sense of this, let's look at a short video. It's a clip by Bruce Lee, kind of offering his philosophy about, I don't know, I guess you could say Kung Fu, but maybe about life as well. And let's watch this and then come back. I'll put the quote up on the screen for you, and we'll work through an understanding of it together. So this is be as water, my friend.
This is what it is, okay? I said empty your mind. Be formless, shapeless, like water. Now you put water into a cup, it becomes the cup. You put water into a bottle, it becomes the bottle. You put it in a teapot, it becomes the teapot. Now water can flow or it can crash. Be water, my friend.
So that's a very charismatic Bruce Lee there, offering this quick little quote. It is a quote that I think
What is your instinct?
Sorry?
To pray! In this position, your arms are...
That was a little bonus for you guys. I don't make videos too often. I'm not used to doing online courses, so part of these videos are bearing with me and learning together and just being adaptable in that as well. But anyway, I wrote down this quote from this video titled "Be Water, My Friend," and I want to look at it to make sense of this concept I just offered about awareness, adaptability, and control, but also look at it to start breaking down its style, and then also seeing how that style combines with rhetoric, combines with a purpose, combines with an argument that he's making. And this close reading that I'll do with you is just a way to highlight the kind of things we're going to do in the coming weeks and really throughout the quarter. So this is just kind of an introduction using a very short quote. So the first thing I'd want to point out is this idea of formlessness or shapelessness. And then in the lines after that, you put water into a cup, it becomes a cup. You put water into a bottle, it becomes a bottle. It's calling out this idea of adaptability, that the water adapts to the different vessels that it's put into. As writers, we do something very similar when we are going to communicate or speak into a specific situation, to a specific audience. We have to be aware of exactly what the shape of that audience is, what the shape of that situation is, and then make sure that our active communication, our argument, or what we want to say fits into that shape. Going backwards from there, I know that many of you have been taught to write in form or to have a specific shape to your writing. We can call this the 5-paragraph essay, and it is a form or a formula that you have been given, probably for a lot of your writing life, to write into. And the reason I wanted to start with this quote is to start with this concept that there is no formula for writing. There is no form or shape that your writing should look like every time you sit down to write. That depending on the situation, depending on the audience, depending on, in this metaphoric sense, the vessel that the water is going to be put into, the shape looks different. It changes. How you go about making that argument or communicating differs. So that's that first idea of awareness and adaptability, being aware of the situation you're writing into and then adapting to it. And then the idea is that you can then control, knowing and being aware of when you're in the shape of a cup or in the shape of a bottle or in the shape of a teapot, or knowing when you can flow, as we see at the end. Now water can flow or it can crash. Knowing when it's appropriate to flow or knowing when it's appropriate to crash shows this ability to control your writing, that you're making a choice in this given situation, to this given audience, to act a certain way or to be shaped a certain way. And that is really going to make you a more successful writer. If you can, as we'll probably remind you all quarter long, be water. I'll remind you, if I don't feel like you're aware of the writing situation or adapting to the writing situation or in control of the choices you're making, I'll just remind you, be water, be water, be water. Are you being water? You can ask yourself this, or are you writing to a formula? And that's a question you can ask yourself over and over and over again. So enough on the basic concept. I thought we'd look at this now to understand the kind of close reading that we'll do in the next couple of weeks by just calling attention to some interesting elements, I guess you'd say, stylistic elements within this short little clip. So I might be highlighting things as we go, pointing out different things. But I'd ask you that even before I go into explaining things, you're already thinking, what sticks out to me in this short quote? What moves me? What captured my attention? What gave me the goosebumps? Whatever it is, you should always, when you read a text, be asking those questions. So, the most obvious is the metaphor, right? It's in the title. Oh, sorry, let's go back to the focus view. This is the title because we have it twice. Be water and be water. So this is a metaphor that Bruce Lee is using to make an argument about how you should act, what kind of qualities you should exhibit, as I'm saying as a writer and he's saying as a fighter. So this idea of metaphor that we're going to look at in week 2, and how we can use metaphor effectively to not only have a distinct style, but also create a emotional response in our reader. I also notice these examples. So it's not just a claim that's a metaphor that says, be water, my friend. So that would just be a claim. He's telling us something. It's actually an imperative. We're going to look at imperatives in week 2 as well. It's a command to be a certain way that has an effect on an audience. Instead of saying, you can be water or you should be water, it simply commands you to be water. And that's an interesting stylistic technique that we're going to practice as well. So we're going to practice metaphor, we're going to practice imperative or command sentences. These are different examples that are also part of the metaphor as well. What does it mean to be water? Let me give you a couple examples. And he gives us 3, not just one, but 3, and each of them fits the same format. So a couple things here. And in terms of argument being be water, he gives us examples about what that means. He helps us understand what he means by that. It's a definition / example. What's also interesting about this is the way that the sentence unfolds. That's the syntax. Syntax is sentence construction, how to shape or organize or structure a sentence that is effective. And he's doing that here too. Very interesting repetition of the 3 examples in the same exact way. It calls our attention to it, has an effect on it. And then, of course, you have the other voice aspects coming through that show that we have a person talking to us. They're not robotically um, in a stiff academic voice trying to tell us what it means to be water. They're talking to us. He's using things like okay and I said, and he's using the second person, you. He's very much talking to an audience. He's a person. He's talking to an audience who is a person as well. And that's something we're going to look at too, writing in the second person. Um, Writing in a natural voice, getting out of the not only the formula of writing, but the kind of strict academic voice that you've maybe been taught to write in before. So I'm going to be done with this and just exit out of it. Go back to video here. So there's only one last thing that I wanted to do to end this introduction video. Let's look a little bit back at the syllabus, specifically at the course objectives, and make a little bit of sense of that. So I'm going to pull up one more document where I'm going to go back to the syllabus. Let's get out of here. Okay. And we'll just keep reading a few more things here. Objectives. The goals of this course are many, listed here but not limited to these. And throughout the quarter, we will discuss the many concrete and conceptual skills you must sharpen in order to grow as a reader and writer. So I've divided into two categories here. First one's about being a reader, second about being a writer. A good reader pays close attention to the details of language to identify meaning expressed or implied by a writer's words. I think that's what we just started to do with the Bruce Lee quote. Pay close attention to the details of the language he was using. We didn't get into the effect fully, but we talked about that there was an effect. A good reader pays close attention to the sound of language and recognizes its effects on a writer's purpose, message, and or impact on the audience. So a lot of audience-focused talk here. A good reader pays close attention not just to what a text says, but how it communicates and why. This is an interesting point. All Bruce Lee was saying was you need to be aware and be adaptable and act differently in different situations. Now, he could have said it exactly how I just said it. That's what he was saying, and that's what he was trying to communicate. But this class is going to look at how it was said and why it was said that way. A good reader pursues reading as an act of pleasure, not work. A good reader reads widely, making connections across a variety of texts, different writers, different styles or genres, different contexts, by identifying related conversations and patterns. Let's talk about writing. A good writer knows how to control language with style devices that create specific and deliberate effects. That is what we will be doing for the first 2.5 weeks of the course. A good writer is able to make connections between their style, purpose, and audience, aware that how they say something affects their meaning and purpose. A good writer adapts to their audience's needs in a variety of situations and contexts, creating and controlling the purposeful effects of their writerly choices on the reader. A good writer exhibits skills such as persuasiveness, coherency, fluency, structural organization, and analysis. A good writer crafts writing that effectively balances their ideas with the ideas drawn from other appropriate sources. A good writer is able to reflect on their writing by asking specific questions about their work and then revise what they're trying to say in order to communicate more effectively. So those are the objectives. The thing I'm going to end on here, so that we don't go too long, is the class question. And I'll revisit this a little bit later on in other videos. But for now, I just want to point out that this course focuses on poetry. And so in this, I'll just read this section. In this course, you'll do a variety of writing, from short descriptions to short take-home exercises to quick writing or rewriting in class, to creative explorations of our text and theme, to longer arguments. We'll be narrowing our focus, however, to a single question. How does a poet make meaning? Though that question may frighten some of you, let me clarify, this is not a poetry writing class. What I mean by this is that even though we will read, analyze, and learn from poems in the first few weeks of the quarter, then read essays about poetry to help us understand the class question better, you will not be writing poetry in your writing assignments. We are simply using poetry as a lens to understand good writing as a topic, and as a topic to focus on as we practice writing critically and persuasively. So the first 2.5 weeks of the course, we will be reading poetry. We're doing this to learn the style skills that I've chosen for you to learn at the beginning of this course. Then later on in the quarter, starting in week 6, we're going to start reading about poetry and about how poetry is made, about how poetry makes meaning. And we're going to learn how to analyze poems more deeply than we do at the beginning of the quarter. And ultimately, we're going to write a final essay called How Does a Poet Make Meaning?, in which you're going to have to answer that question in a very specific way. I don't need to go through anything else in the syllabus right now because I understand that you've read it already and can go back to it at any time. So the last thing I'll do is point out that you need to get this text. Let's see, Endangered Pleasures, Barbara Holland. We're going to start reading this in week 3, by the end of week 3, so you'll have to have it by then. And then also the Anteater Guide to Writing and Rhetoric. I sent you the link to both of these. This one, you won't have the hard copy, you will have the digital copy. I sent you the link for that, but you need to have that by the end of this week, I believe, because you have some reading to do for it very soon. I'll post another video coming up about how to read the course calendar or the course reading schedule and assignment schedule, and even be able to compare that to the modules and the due dates that are on the modules and on the syllabus or assignment section in Canvas as well. But that will come soon. So for now, I just want to say welcome to the course. I'm glad that I get to work with you for the next 10 weeks and can't wait to get to know you more. Until next time, I will see you later.